The Premier League relegation battle continues to fascinate. There's not long left of this Premier League season, but it's still so tight and so many teams are involved here. From Crystal Palace in 12th, who are in pretty poor form, down to Southampton, who are bottom, but have only lost one game in 4. There's 4 points separating this bottom 9, and there's so many teams sandwiched in here. Which 3 are going down? Let's talk about it today. If you support a Premier League team, especially one of these in this mess, do get your thoughts down below in the comments. Do make sure to drop a like as we go for 200 likes on this video, and do make sure to subscribe. Give me your thoughts down in the comments. Which 3 teams do you think are going down? Let's start at the bottom then with Southampton, who are that bottom team, and a lot of people are starting to say Southampton do look like a team that are going to go down this year. I kind of get that argument because they're bottom and they played a game more than most teams, but you cannot count them as relegated yet. There's barely anything separating all these teams down here, and everyone keeps tripping over each other, and it only takes one Southampton win to bring them out of this bottom 3. As I said, they've only lost 1 of their last 4. Their goal difference isn't by any means the worst down there, so if it does come down to goal difference, Southampton could survive because there's a few teams with worse goal difference. They've got James Ward-Prowse, who's probably one of the best players in this relegation battle as well. And let's have a look at their fixtures going forwards. They take on West Ham in a massive Premier League 6-pointer down the bottom in their first game back in April. It's then Manchester City, who are charging for the title, Crystal Palace, another team in this mess, Arsenal once again fighting for the title, and then Bournemouth, another team down here. So 3 games against other relegation teams that are battling, so 6-pointers, and then 2 title challengers as well. So 5 massive games for Southampton. If they can come out of these with quite a few points, they might find themselves in a position where they could survive. Let's move on to 19th place, which is Bournemouth. Bournemouth are showing up with 24 points from 27, so they're 3 points under a point per game. If they were to finish 3 points under a point per game come the end of the season, that'd take them to 35 points, which actually could be enough for Bournemouth this season. Once again, it could come down to how the other teams perform around them. They've got a decent front line, but they've got the worst defence in the league. They do concede goals for fun. It's interesting looking at their last 5 games. They don't tend to draw too many. They've won 2 and lost 3, and maybe that approach could be what gets them enough. Winning and losing is a better combination than having a couple of draws in there. Bournemouth have an absolutely massive April with 4 6-pointers coming at them. They've got to play Leicester City, West Ham, Southampton and Leeds. If they were to win 2 of those 4 6-pointers, then Bournemouth might just be on the right side of the dotted line going in towards May. Next up in 18th place are West Ham United. West Ham are really pushing it this season in terms of how close they're getting to the relegation scrap, but once again, because it's so tight down there, 1 West Ham win and they would catapult themselves away from it, but then again a couple of defeats and they could slip right back into it. West Ham's numbers are a bit skewed this season. They're just struggling for consistency. They've picked up 5 points in their last 5 games, so they're churning out a point per game, which could just be enough, but once again they're really making it tight this season. Looking into their April games, they've got to take on Southampton, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, and they're still going strong in Europe. Could that breed positivity for them, or could that be a distraction where they really need to focus on the Premier League to survive? West Ham fans will probably be surprised to find out the bookmakers have them to finish 13th this season, so the bookies think West Ham are going to fly away from this mess. I think it's going to be closer than that. On to the next team, 17th place, it's Leicester City, who have only picked up 1 point in their last 5, but it was a decent point at Brentford last time out. Leicester City are 2 points under a point per game, so once again, if they were to carry that on and get to about 36 points this season, it could just be enough, but the recent run of form does have them heading towards that bottom 5. They've got some massive games coming in April as well. They take on Crystal Palace, AFC Bournemouth, Wolves and Leeds. 4 6-pointers coming in April. They have got a very good goal difference for a team down there, so once again, if it comes down to that, Leicester City could be alright. They are projected to finish 14th in the bookies predictions. Leicester City fans, what do you think? I think the bookies are being kind because Leicester City are not looking great at the moment, but they have got key players like James Maddison, of course, and maybe he can carry them away from this. On to the next team in 16th place, it is Nottingham Forest, who are winless in 6, and they did lose at the City Ground, which is quite a rare thing. We must give them a lot of credit for that long unbeaten run at the City Ground, but it is now over, but they need to get another good run going soon because they are flirting with danger. We all know how terrible Nottingham Forest's goal difference is, and they'll see West Ham below them have a game in hand, so things could move around a little bit. Nottingham Forest have a very interesting April coming up where they've got some games they really need to win and then some really tricky games on paper. They've got Wolves, Leeds and Villa. The first 2 are absolute 6-pointers where they really can't afford to lose either, to be honest, the position they're in. They then take on Manchester United, Liverpool, Brentford and Brighton. Some some massive games there for Nottingham Forest. They really need to try and recapture that brilliant home form because the away form is so bad. They're bottom of the away table. Nottingham Forest are getting sucked back into it. I've said for pretty much all of this season that I do think Nottingham Forest are going to survive, and I'm not going to change my position on that. I do think Nottingham Forest might still get over the line, but it might be closer than I anticipated. Nottingham Forest fans, do share your thoughts down below. You really need that next win soon. In an ideal world, you really need to win one or both of the next two games against Wolves and Leeds. Otherwise, Forest are really going to slip into that bottom three, and it really could be hard to turn it around once you're in the bottom three. Let me know your thoughts, Forest fans. Next up in 15th place are Everton. Sean Dyche is doing a brilliant job, as most people did expect with this Everton team. They have played a game more than most teams down here, but 5 points in their last three. You can really see the trajectory is that Everton are moving up. I'm looking at these fixtures for everyone down here. I do think Everton do have the toughest April on paper. Everton have got to play Tottenham Hotspur, Manchester United, Fulham, Crystal Palace and Newcastle in their next 5 games. But when they are at Goodison Park, you do have this feeling that Everton might be able to pull something out the bag. And we saw them get a really good draw away at Stamford Bridge as well. There's certainly no mugs on the road either. The bookmakers have Everton to finish 17th, so they do think Sean Dyche will keep them up, but only just. Remember, everyone having a game in hand on Everton means they might be in a slightly false position at this moment in time. Next up in 14th place are Leeds United. Oh my gosh, what a win against Wolves last time out at Molineux. They needed that like a shot in the arm. Leeds United have literally shot up the table at the same time as well, with 7 points in their last 4 games. You can say Grazia is actually turning this team around, and they're starting to look up the table. Once again, things could take a dramatic turn again, and Leeds could be looking back down the table soon. But I think personally, Grazia is doing a fantastic job, and I do think he'll keep them up if they keep going the way they are. They've got some massive games coming. They've got 4 6-pointers in April: Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Leicester and Bournemouth. The bookmakers have Leeds to finish 16th this year, so they do believe that Leeds United will stay up. Leeds United fans, do share your thoughts down below. Do you think your team's going to be alright? It's so tight down there, but you've really shot up the table with that recent run of form. Next up, 13th place, you got Wolves. Now, Wolves did go on a good run a few weeks ago where they shot themselves up the table, but they have lost 3 of their last 4 games, and they're now back under a point per game. Wolverhampton Wanderers' next 4 games are really fascinating. They go away to Nottingham Forest, which is an absolutely massive game. They then have Chelsea, Brentford and Leicester. They've really got to try and pick up a minimum of 5 points from those 4 games just to keep themselves away from danger. But you've got to say their manager's done a fantastic job since he's come in, and I really don't see Wolves going down despite 3 defeats in their last 4. Wolves fans, share your thoughts down below. The bookmakers have Wolves to finish 15th this season, so they also believe Wolves will survive. The last team we'll mention are Crystal Palace, who are in 12th place. Now, on most Premier League seasons, if you're in 12th place with this amount of games to go, you're probably not concerned with the relegation battle. But because it's so tight, Crystal Palace could find themselves 16th, 17th, 18th in just 2 or 3 weeks' time. When I've spoken about the Premier League relegation battle before, a couple of weeks ago and even a month ago, I did mention Crystal Palace as a team that aren't safe yet, and a few people laughed at that. But Crystal Palace are winless in 12 games in all competitions, and it's obviously led to the sacking of Vieira. At this moment in time, it's hard to actually guess which way Crystal Palace are going to go because we don't know who the manager is officially at this moment in time. But I've got to say, their April is the most fascinating out of any team down here. All of their games are against teams in the bottom 8. They take on Leicester City, Leeds United, Southampton, Everton, Wolves and West Ham. If Crystal Palace continue their poor run of form, then they'll be gifting points to other teams around them and will slip into that bottom 3. If they were to go on a good run and survive, they might not be in the relegation battle, but they could determine who goes down with who they beat and who they lose to in these massive April games. So then guys, that does wrap it up for today. Do give me your opinions down below. I'm not going to bother with trying to predict it at this moment in time. It's so tight, literally anyone could go down. So that's up to you. Get your predictions down in the comments. Do make sure you've dropped a like if you've enjoyed this video, and do make sure to subscribe for more Premier League content. It's the international break now. I just can't wait for the Premier League to come back in April. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.